Fresco Beverage. Fresco Beverage. We're live. It is 6:24. Just clicked off. I'm here a little bit early, but that's good. I was excited about this one. You can see from the photo that's up, that one's actually a 5.3 liter. The reason that I wanted to do this, and we'll go through a couple of these photos, but what I wanted to do was have you guys help me pick a, we're thinking about doing a new cam profile for Richard Holder Performance. And what we're thinking about is something that makes even more power than the cams that we currently have. So we've got the low buck truck, we've got the truck plus, and we're looking at other cam. I'm looking at other cam profiles. And one of the cool things for, and we'll show you some more of these photos. So that's a 5.3, basically an all stock one that we did a bunch of testing on. We're swapping cams. That particular one was when I was doing a bunch of factory cams. So that was either an LS9 or a LS3 or an LS7 or so, one of the 1-bolt cams. So when we were doing a bunch of testing on it, we obviously did the truck manifold. We had, in that case, we used a Holley Dominator, but, you know, an HP, all that's the same. When we were doing all the cam testing, we put a Beehive spring deal upgrade from the guys at Brian Tooley Racing at the time. And so that we could, because we tested a bunch of cams in this particular instance, we tested a bunch of the factory cams on this motor, all of the factory cams I could get my hands on. And then we also tested a bunch of aftermarket cams. And then we saw, so the question is, if we're going to be running a camshaft and we want to do a new, even more powerful camshaft, let's take a look at this power curve. And this is the kind of thing that I'm asking for. So if we were to do another more powerful cam, what we're thinking about is the next stage up from the two cams that we have. So we have a really good, the low buck truck cam, 90% of the people, that's what I recommend for people. The same thing with the Truck Norris, Chupacabra, that kind of smaller cam are the kind of people that I deal with primarily. You know, you go to the wrecking yard, or you want to put something in that's going to be driving around and as good power down low, and makes a decent amount of power up top, like adds, you know, 60 horsepower, whatever. And then, but doesn't lose a whole bunch of power down low. In fact, gains power down low, gains torque. That's a really good cam. We sell a bunch of those. Truck Plus, kind of the next step up, you know, gains another 15 horsepower or so on top, loses power down low compared to the low buck truck. But then also we want to see about getting something that makes a lot more power. I don't want to get up into the range of you know, limited available piston valve clearance, but the power curve that I'm showing you here was actually from a crane cam test that I did. It was a 224 cam that we ran, and that thing picked up almost 90 horsepower over the stock LM7 camshaft. So my question for you is, so this like I said, picked up about 90 at the peak, but the thing is, in looking at these gains, like with the difference between our low buck truck camshaft and a Truck Norris cam, or for Brian Tooley Racing, you're looking at their Truck Norris cam and their hot rod cam. Anytime you go, you can pick any two cams from any cam companies. When you're looking at those kinds of things, when you're upgrading to the cam, the inevitable thing is that you're going to have a loss in low speed power for the gain. At some point, you can't have everything for everything. You can't have all of the big torque down low and all the big power up top. That sort of cam just isn't available. You can't make that happen. You could get, you know, you could get good combinations, but you just can't have all of it. You can't get the peak power of a 231 or 234 at 50 camshaft, and then also have the low speed power of a 202 camshaft or a 206 or whatever you're putting down there. You just can't do that. So ultimately, at some point, you have to trade it off. And one of the things that is beneficial for me in what I've been doing for the last 30 years is I have access to unlimited data, because I've tested more cams than most people in the world. And so I have a lot of data on what different cams do. In fact, like in this case, we tested 20 camshafts on this motor. So I have a lot of things that are direct back-to-backs, but I also have other setups where I ran 20 cams on this combination, I ran 10 on this combination, and 5 on this combination. So I have a lot of data that I can look at with lots of different cam combinations. And then what I do is I can take all that data and go, oh, well, this one does this one does this. And I can analyze it at every RPM range. I can analyze in a lot of cases with a lot of these cams. We have idle vacuum, we have cranking compression, we have a lot of other data. I can also then take all of the cam specs for all of these, because we have all of this down, and then I could plug it into the Summit Racing camshaft analyzer, basically, to get all the valve events. And then I can organize all the valve events and go, okay, well, this one did this, and then it also did this with this lift, duration, lobe separation angle, overlap, intake and exhaust valve opening and closing events, and then start looking at it from, you know, at the micro level, I call it. So you can go, well, it did this, had this kind of gain in the power curve, and did it with these kind of valve events. So I have access to all of that data. So me making a camshaft do what I want it to do, I don't think is going to be terribly hard. The question isn't that now. The question is, what do we want? Like, what do I want the camshaft to do? Then I could go about making it do that, because I probably have already tested something that kind of does that. And then I know what the valve events are, and I know the things that I would want to change and make it my own kind of thing. You know, we've got to try to whittle away at it, make it a little bit better. But the question is, if we have a camshaft that's getting something like this, so in this case, this thing made an extra, I think, 89 horsepower and another 28 foot-pounds of torque over the stock cam. But you could see it didn't make more power everywhere than the stock cam. It made more power from 4,200 on up, from 4,200 to down to 2,900. It made the same or a little more than the stock cam. You can see down the range, down between 3,000 and 3,500. It actually made a little bit more, but it's not, it's 3 or 4 foot-pounds or whatever. So it's not a big amount, but I just want to point that out, that it is as good or better than the stock cam. And this stock cam is an LM7 camshaft. So it's the most powerful low-speed torque cam that the factory made. It's better than all the other cams, way down low. The LS1 and LS2, LS3, LS6, LS7, LS9 camshafts, all those cams make less power down low than this camshaft does. They make more power on the top by a fairly good bit in some cases, but not anywhere near what they do down low. But as you can see on this 224 cam, if we look at it, it made less power than the stock cam, down below 3,000 RPM, down below 2,800 RPM. Now, one of the things in going back and remembering and looking at the data on this, I honestly don't know if it makes that much less. I would honestly want to retest this, and I would want to go back and make sure that everything was exactly the same. I would want to go back and make sure that I would want to re-examine it and go, hey, what was the water temperature? What was the oil temperature? And then also, what was the timing curve down low? Because we ran this thing all the way down to 2,400 RPM is where we started these things out. I would just want to make sure that the cam timing was the same. And also that in a lot of cases, we'll leave the cam timing the same for some of these cam tests, but it might be that bigger cam, maybe it will respond to more timing where the stock ones didn't respond to more timing. So I would want to adjust that and just make sure that that's the case. But let's go in and assume that, hey, we lost a little bit of power down low with the bigger cam that gained us 90 horsepower. My question to you guys is, if we were going to do a camshaft like this, that was basically the next step up from what we already have, would you want something like this that needs a 2,800 or 3,000 or it needs a 2,800 to 3,000 RPM stall converter to really take advantage of what this thing has to offer? I mean, obviously, this thing from 4,000 on out or whatever would storm, and it'd be a lot faster. Obviously, when you get 90 more horsepower, it would be a lot faster than a stock cam. But down low, it's not going to be the same thing. So it's not going to be a low buck truck camshaft down low. In fact, up to a pretty good RPM, the low buck truck camshaft is definitely going to be better. But a low buck truck camshaft doesn't make anywhere near what this does on the top end. So my question is this kind of cam that you guys might be interested in? And Adrian, yes, it does chop. So let me know in the comments. I can't really do a poll, but let me know in the comments if that's something that you think that you would be interested in. And so should we offer some of that? And so it has as much usable torque as the stock one does, because it makes the same or more than the stock one from 2,900 RPM all the way out to basically 6,600, I think is where we pulled this one to. And it would go more than that, but in fact, and we wouldn't copy this camshaft, but this kind of camshaft, if I look at all of the specs, in fact, I would definitely change this camshaft, because it's looking at the specs of it, it's not what I would make. But I could get a cam to do something like this. But this is the kind of camshaft that we used on the 4.8 that made for 76 with good heads and a fast manifold on it. So it did good. It made almost 100 horsepower per liter on the 4.8, and we could make even more, I think, with a bigger camshaft on that, which is another thing that I want to try that's on the list of things to do to make more power out of a 4.8. Make 100 horsepower per liter, or actually I want to get to 500 horsepower on a 4.8. So, but this camshaft did very well on that, this kind of camshaft. And what I think I can do is I think I could get this thing to make more middle power and not hurt the top. Because I don't think guys are going to care too much. Like this was on a 5.3. I don't know that guys want in the camshaft that we would be doing. This would be the extreme level of what I would be interested in doing. I don't want to do 7,000 or 7,500 or 8,000 RPM stuff. I'm not really interested in that, because as we go up in RPM like that, you go down in market size, because the number of people that do that are just not very many. We may get comments from people that are like, oh yeah, I want to run to 8,000 or 8,500 RPM. That's good. Bless you and go on your way. And I wish you nothing but happiness. But the number of people that do that, the number of people that say that is way bigger than the number of people that actually do that. And then the number of people that actually do that successfully, smaller and smaller and smaller. And I don't want to cater to 6 or 8 or 10 guys or whatever that want a camshaft like that are going to be way more problematic, because maybe they shouldn't be doing that, than the number of people that just put a camshaft in. Hey, look, it added 90 horsepower. That's really a good deal. So again, let me know if this is something that you think is a thing that we should look at. Should I spend all the time and energy into doing this? Marshall, Scottish, what's going on? Jet, Rich Wood, got to hit that like button. Yep, do the like. Are you doing a cam giveaway? No, we could coming up. All right, let's get into it. Yep, howdy. Give it the most, all the beans that you can. Yeah, again, it's always that big trade-off. Actually, I was looking at the specs, or not the specs, but we were looking at the power gains on an LS9 cam and an LS7 camshaft. An LS7 camshaft doesn't make anywhere near what this one does, but they do pretty well. It's just that they get killed for most of the curve down low compared to even the stock cam. So it feels terrible in a car. The real question, how much horsepower is it worth? Well, this is worth 90, so it was worth quite a bit, and 28 foot-pounds. I'll take that cam for a 5.3 aluminum one. How about a 233, 241? Yep, you could do that. That's even bigger. Brazil's in the house. What's going on? What kind of injection control do you use to tune it? I use, when we run it on the dyno, in fact, I can show you those photos. We used the Holley Dominator on this, but you can see we don't even have everything plugged in because we're not using all the capability of it. A Dominator and HP. We're going to start using or trying the Haltech stuff. I've also used Fast, and that works good. And also the MS3 Pro, but not on the LS stuff, only on the 4200. We want great power and torque through the whole power band, gains through the whole curve. Yeah, that's hard to do. Motorhead just bled some brakes and a clutch. High compression LS1, the BTR stage 3 cam firing up tomorrow. That should have a good sound to it. Do your own version of a sloppy stage 2 cam, the sloppy Richard cam? Nope, not really interested in that cam. That cam is not that cam is an inexpensive cam that that was Matt's version of every cam is a turbo cam basically. And I like the guys at Elgin that they have sold a ton of those cams and a bunch of people are copying that cam, but that's not a cam that I would use the specs on. The cam that I was showing, at least for the power curve, is a this one was a crane cam. VTEC or VVC. Yeah, VTEC would be really good. Variable cam would help a bit. The problem is when you get up into this kind of duration, that you just don't have the ability to swing the cam very much. It's particularly with stock piston to valve clearance. Now, if you had pistons that had valve release in it, where you had more swing ability, let's say, then you could improve it a bit. But advancing and retarding the cam doesn't gain huge power gains. At least it hasn't shown to yet on the Gen 3 and Gen 4 stuff. Question is, what do you want to do with the cam? Is it a street cam or all-out power cam? Baby Shark, what's going on? If you build it, I'll take the first one. If you have valve springs, injectors, and whatever else is necessary, we have all of that. We have all of that. The thing I'd like to try to do also, and this is, you know, kind of the design criteria, is that we would like to make the cams so that you know, you can have an inexpensive set of springs to go with that. Everybody needs two vehicles, a race car and a healthy street, so that you can drive for race car parts. That's right. Does it chop? If it was a street cam, I'd say good mid-range really would be the most fun. So a race car and a pickup. 5/16 race cam. This one's not race. This one, I mean, those specs are like the cam that I ran in my Mustang, in my 302 Mustang, for years and years and years. Yes, I'm interested. Yes, usable torque is great. Interested in this. Basically an all-out high RPM cam. More options, the better. Yeah, the problem with having more options is that we don't want to have that many parts, and also we have to make a lot of cams, so it has to be a saleable thing. Torque is great for turning tires into smoke. At this point, it should be a cam that will need a converter. Okay. Yeah, once we're getting past the Truck Plus camshaft, we're in converter territory, especially on a 4.8 and a 5.3. Gen 562 Truck Norris just showed up for the Escalade. That's good. I'm trying to talk to Brian Tooley right now about getting him on for an interview, and the Truck Norris is one of the, for the Gen 5 motor, is one of the things that I want to talk about. At what point does shorter gearing compensate for lack of converter? For example, a car with a 6L80 trans has a 402 first gear. Well, that's still a gear. So if you have, you know, your gear multiplication is the gear ratio of the trans and the rear end gear, and obviously the tire size. So if you alter any of those to make it accelerate quicker, that will help. The converter also helps in a different way, in that it adds essentially RPM for kind of the start of that. I think it'd be great to be able to turn 8 to 10,000 RPM. Yeah, that's more than a camshaft. What would you do to an LM4? You just tell me how much power you want to make, and we'll tell you how to get there. I like the zip tire. Yeah, the Dominator. That made it easier to let's see. Those are the rockers. Add to the stage. Yeah, it just makes it easier to hang there. Carbureted. What would you do to an LM4 carbureted? That doesn't matter that it's carbureted or fuel injected. You just got to tell me, like, what is the motor, and like what kind of power you're trying to make, and what RPM range are you running and stuff. We could kind of tell you, help you get there. Sean, I think this one is a turbo cam. Does a Holley standalone ECU have knock protection? You can run knock sensors with it, yeah. The 2001 LM753, if I want to add a cam like the one in this video, would I need injectors also? Yes, you would definitely need springs, and you would definitely need injectors, because you're making so much more power that stock injectors will not, can't supply enough fuel. Got to get a Truck Norris is better than a sloppy stage 2. A Truck Norris does not make as much peak power as a sloppy stage 2. It doesn't make as much power as a sloppy stage 2 from about 5,000 on up, but is a lot better below that. The Truck Norris is a really good cam. I recommend it all the time. Keep in mind, if you have a manual transmission, you don't have to worry about a converter. Yep. I wonder, I would be curious to know the number of manual transmission guys out there versus the automatic guys. I know that it's going to be way skewed to the automatic side. Not that people prefer that, but they just sell way more automatics than they do manual transmissions, because the big market for these LS motors, the ones that we find in the wrecking yard all the time, and the ones that they sold millions of instead of thousands of, are trucks. And so the vast majority of trucks, I think 1 or 2% were ever manual transmissions. They're all automatics. And so there's just way more automatics for those. Now, I don't know if guys that are swapping them are then putting them, coupling them with manual transmissions like we're going to do with the Mustang. But I would still have to say automatics kind of are way more. And watch your videos, and I may have missed it, but have you done any tests on an L96 6-liter? No, but that 6-liter is no different than any other 6-liter. And I've tested lots of different 6-liters. An LY6, an LQ4, an LQ9, LS2, and some hodgepodge versions of those that we've made ourselves. Would love some good injectors for a turbo motor. We have lots of injectors there. We have anywhere from the inexpensive 50-pound flex fuel injectors all the way up to thousands. Off topic, can I run flat tap it with hydraulic roller heads? Are you talking about hydraulic roller springs? Because the heads don't care about the camshaft. I have an 03 Tahoe 5.3 needs to donate its guts to science. Great information, always informative. If you have that magic third pedal, you don't need a converter. That's right. 454 max lift cam, Gen 6 with flat top pistons with valve relief. Are you asking how much lift you can put in there? Because the motor, the piston valve clearance really has nothing to do with lift, and it has everything to do with duration. Truck Norris meets BTR Stage 3 Turbo Cam meets Truck Norris. They're all going to meet together. I'm installing a Truck Plus cam in a 4.8 with dual 600 springs. Will this cam valve train be stable enough for sustained 6,000 to 7,000? Yes, you can run a stock motor, a stock 4.8 to 7,000, or a stock 5.3 to 7,000. So that's not going to be a problem at all. What do you think about mother thumper cams? Are you, so Danny, you're asking about that on a small block Chevy? I don't know. They've run a couple of those at West Tech, I think. I don't think that those were done for making lots of power, but it is a big split duration kind of camshaft. And they do have, they do have the chop that people like. But I haven't tested enough of them to tell you, yes, they make power, or no, they don't. I would suspect that they do based on the specs that you have for the camshaft. But the thing that's going to be holding back your combination are those old iron heads. I guess I've done it wrong. I've gone and put a turbo cam in my motor. Yeah, that's right. It's going to hold you back, right? Manual transmissions for the win. Would you recommend a single 3-inch or single 3.5-inch for a 5.3 with a rear mount turbo? Are you talking about the exhaust after the turbo, or the exhaust going to the turbo? The exhaust going to the turbo should be small. Manual versus automatic sounds like a poll question. I think it would depend on what vehicle that you have. I would like a manual transmission kind of in my truck, just because I think it would get better mileage. How much horsepower is a stock Gen 4 6.2 flex fuel injector good for? I don't know which ones those are. If they're like the ones that we have, which are 50-pounders, you can make a lot of power NA with those. You could make 800 with those NA. Less under boost. Going to do a VQ40 Nissan Trans conversion. Okay. Is it a 6-speed trans? C4 ZF6 trans just showed up to replace the NV3500 double overdrive. It's going to be awesome. Bill, what's the gearing in the NV3500? And what was that coupled to? What engine was it coupled to? 5-speed all the way, add lightness. I like the team at Lotus. There you go. Even the UK is swapping to automatics or DSGs. Used to be difficult and rare to buy an automatic. Yeah, I mean, in most applications, the automatics are quicker than people doing manual shifting. They certainly shift a lot faster. And it's kind of cool to have an 8-speed automatic or whatever. But I do like manual transmissions. Does injector data come with 1,000 injectors? Yes, we have injector data for those. Promax heads say hydraulic roller only. They're saying that not because of the cylinder heads, James. They're saying that because of the springs that they're using on there. So they're using a hydraulic roller needs more spring rate than a hydraulic flat tap it does. So Promax should list what the spring rates are. Otherwise, the head, like I said, the cylinder head doesn't care. So that's all just the valve spring. Love to see an all-out LS build dedicated to high RPM, maybe a big cube D-stroke is 10,000 RPM possible. The stroke, the motor doesn't care about the stroke. That's not what's going to get you RPM. The valve train is going to get you RPM. And if you want to see one of those, go take a look at Ben over at EFI University. They are doing stuff like that. In fact, theirs are going way beyond 10,000. What are your thoughts on solid lifters with hydraulic cam? I wouldn't do that on a flat tappet cam. I have seen people do that on hydraulic roller stuff. LS3 injectors are 58-pound injectors, I believe. I thought that they were 40-somethings, 42s. Let's see here. L33. LS2 is 34. LS3 is 42. LSA and LS9 are 52. And then there should be some L9H, L94. The 54s, I think, are the flex fuel ones, the ones that we have. So those are the most. The blower ones, the LSA and LS9s, and then the flex fuel ones. 6-speed Nissan, kind of budget build for a T56. VQ40 DE made it to a Gen 3 6-liter heads cam Trailblazer SS. Okay. A set of Edelbrock Performer RPM aluminum heads I got with a trade and curious as to how good they are. Another setup for hydraulic roller to 575. Well, Wes, what motor is this that we're talking about? Are they big block Chevy heads, small block Chevy heads, Fords? What are they? NV3500 is 0.73 high gear, but I wanted a stronger transfer of the 406. Okay, so that's you have it mated to a small block Chevy then? Any update on the 8.1? I haven't run that in a long time. I think most of the automatics being faster is gearing, though. The long gears we get in manuals are there to cheat regulatory tests. With automatics, can just do that with programming. That's not why an automatic is faster. An automatic is faster because it's an automatic is faster. It definitely shifts a lot faster than any person can. I didn't realize that they're reaching faster than 10. Oh yeah, they're way beyond that. I think Spinal Tap went past 11 because they had to turn it to 11. Would hurt to run hydraulic roller springs with my 560 lift flat tappet cam. Yeah, the lift on the cam or the lift on the spring doesn't matter. It's the spring rate. We need to know what the spring rate is. And if there's too much spring rate, it'll wear the cam out. Okay, let's take a look. I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Jimmy. I don't see them up there, but they should be. I actually don't see them up there. So I won't know that until tomorrow. I thought that they were already there. Using a sniper crossflow blow through 7 psi rear mount, how much charge air cooling does it likely provide? How much charge air cooling does what provide? Are you blowing through some kind of throttle body that injects fuel? That works pretty good. It doesn't. I mean, you could also intercool it, which would be better. Automatics are faster because the torque converter can multiply the torque up to 2.2 times at lower speeds. Yeah, for the launch, but also a good automatic anymore can shift in like, what is it, milliseconds now? A regular guy's not gonna be able to shift like that. And the automatics having more gears keeps the usable RPM range, much narrower. What horsepower 50-pound flex injector is usually good for? You can, like I said, if you even at a 0.5 brake specific, which LS motor does way better than that, 50 pounds is 100 horsepower per cylinder. So on a V8, that's more than 800 horsepower NA. Spinal Tap ever installed in a race or just a toy? I think that they did race it. Ever seen a super stalker pull the front wheel 3 feet off the ground with a 283? They're not going to do that with a stick car. Even with a heavy flywheel? Frosty cold beverage. Oh, so let's take a look at this power curve again. Wah! Charging hard on the big end. I really like that cam. That particular cam I ran on a bunch of stuff. I would like to see it do more, but it always did well. But something like that. So I should be heading down to West Tech to do some more testing, which will be fun. I'm excited about that. Almost done building 480 to swap into my 1500 L7. Once it's done, I'm going to need a cam. Is there an LS daily driver towing cam that had a very aggressive chop? That's what you want. I think our low buck truck cam has just the right amount of chop. Back to the cam. When can we expect to see it? When can you expect to see what? Check out some Ozark Mountain super shifters if you want to see wheelies from stick cars. Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, I got a lot of respect for guys out there doing it in a manual trans, and I wouldn't ever run an automatic for the stuff that I like for road racing. I wouldn't ever run an automatic for Bonneville either, because I just don't like the fact that it takes the power away, and especially on that's one thing I've told when we were doing the transmission for the Bonneville Civic that we did. No automatics. I'm definitely going to run a manual. Michael, what's going on? You can make the chop come and go with tuning. Yep, you can add the chop tune to it. Have you already made the cam? No. Did you just get? No, you've been here for a while, right? Do you understand the conversation that we had? But I'm asking if people would be interested in having a power curve like that. That cam already exists. I've already tested it. That cam goes all the way back to, that cam's like 15 years old, I'm sure. You can make crackle tunes, but should you? Yeah, I'm more curious about the fact that, if we're going to gain 90 horsepower, and that was what the discussion was. If you're going to make a camshaft that gains that kind of power, you're going to trade power down low, particularly on a 4.8 and a 5.3. As you get bigger, the trade becomes less pronounced. But on a 4.8 or 5.3, that's inherent in the thing. You can't have one that gains 90 horsepower and then also gains 90 foot-pounds of torque. You can't gain 90 foot-pounds of torque anyway, but you can't do that. You always have to trade one for the other. And the question is it, for people, is that a viable thing? I mean, if I posted a thing where we said, hey, look, here's a cam that adds 90 horsepower, I think a lot of people would buy it. But I like to discuss whether or not they should, because I didn't do this, like I didn't start this business, this store, to just steer people into buy camshafts. What I've been doing for the last 30 years is steering them with information to help them get the thing and achieve the thing that they want to achieve. My question is more like, are there people out there that want that? That's not a camshaft that's honestly not a camshaft that I would recommend to the vast majority of people. We are going to sell way more low buck truck camshafts than we would sell of those, even though that one gains a lot more power. But there are people that want that. They're like, yeah, oh, I definitely want that. This cam was 224 on the intake side. How much would the low buck truck camshaft gain over a stock L92 6.2 liter? Isn't an L92, isn't that a VVT cam? Getting a turbo ready to install the E46. Just finished porting the internal wastegate. All right, I like that. I like the porting the internal wastegate. That's good stuff. LQ4, LQ9 rods and pistons. So that you've just made an LQ9 basically, with an LS6 intake and 243 heads. Okay, all that's good. What compression would this be, and can I expect it with, and what can I expect with a low buck truck camshaft? It's going to be a flat top with 243s on it. It's essentially going to be an LS2 then. So an LS2 compression is fairly high. 10.9 is what they say a stock LS2 is, depending on what gasket you use and all that. That's more toward the track and higher RPM than, well, it is on a 5.3. It, like I said, that's why I'm showing the curve, so you can see that it makes as much as the stock cam down low, except right down below 2800. I think we can fix that a little bit, get it closer so there's less of a loss, but it makes as much as the stock cam does. Then it just comes on like on the big end. Horsepower estimates for that. So we just ran an LQ4 with that cam and a Trailblazer SS. And let's see here. Let's see where we were. Cathedral Port, 6 liter. So that low compression one was 450. I'm thinking you're going to be 470 or 480 probably with that. 485, I'm thinking. And a similar amount of torque, although, yeah, similar amount of torque. What idle speed would you set the low buck truck cam to so that it has the nasty chop? Is there any danger to setting idle speed down 450, 500 RPM? I don't think you're going to want the idle speed down that low. Is this is this a manual transmission and not a automatic? I don't think you want it that low, but you can do other things. Talk to some of the tuners about getting the chop that you want. Any horsepower guess on a 360 Pro Max 253 cam single plane? What compression is it? And I don't know about those heads. Are they ported? Do you know what the heads flow? L92 is VVT and somewhat large for a stock cam. It's close to 500 lift. The lift is not important. I don't know what the cam specs are on the VVT cam, and I've never run an L92 with VVT, so I don't know what a stock one does. Maybe the water pump's not turning fast enough to cool at 500 RPM. Yeah, I wouldn't have a 500 RPM idle speed. Should a nitrous plate go under the carb or under the 4-hole spacer? I would put it where the intake manifold is, between, if you have a spacer, put it between the spacer and the intake manifold. Zootrek Bill's telling you to lower the idle timing and rich in the air fuel. Keep an eye on the voltage gauge just in case the alternator isn't spinning fast enough. Yeah, you could have lots of problems. I just don't think it might be problematic to get the thing to idle effectively and not die unless you have a little more RPM. Flat shifting a manual can be faster than automatic because of shorter gears. Yeah, ask any Formula One driver if they do manual transmissions in any of those cars. They don't. So the manual thing is not. And like I said, I'm a manual fan. My 355 was a 6-speed gated shifter because I think that's the way that they should have came. And I like manual transmissions in all of my road race cars and in the Bonneville cars and all of that. But a paddle shifted automatic is going to be faster. LQ9 Truck Norris, ported Trailblazer SS, LS3 throttle body, LM7 862 heads, compression. None of the other things matter for compression. The 862 head is the thing. I'm thinking, Wyatt, you should go to, if you want to find out exactly, I don't know what thickness head gasket you're using. I don't know where the piston is. I don't know any of that stuff. But if you go to Wallace Racing compression calculator, you can put in all that data and it could tell you exactly. I'm going to guess, given the fact that it's going to be over 11-to-1, because if you look at an LQ9 with a 317 head in and you just subtract, if you make the head 10 cc smaller, which is about what the change is going to be, I'm sure that that's going to be more than 1 full point. You can use the overspeed and underspeed timing tables to have more chop. Chill Billy, happy to help. Yo, Prestige, what's going on? All right, and we know how to make the 6-cylinder Ford TFI play with the Terminator X. I figured out everything but that. Don't use AFR to fudge the idle. Less timing, more airflow, idle airflow. I guess just do that is harder with a carb, but just do that. Richard, your videos are great. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Does the Lowbuck truck cam need? Does it need for fuel octane? No, we always run it on 91, but you could run that cam on 87, but that's going to depend more on your timing tables. Our F1 gearbox is more like an automated, electronically controlled manual. How fast do they shift is my point. They shift faster than a person can. I'm scrolling back. What would change with a big valve job? I don't know what you mean by big valve job. Are you talking about putting a bigger valve in the heads? It wouldn't change anything on compression, but putting a 2-inch valve in and doing some chamber work and porting and stuff would make it flow more. You could add more power with that. And in this case, it would want more flow on a 6-liter like that with that head on it. It would respond to that. Because that's what you want. We want more power. picture here, these are 1 3/4 QTP headers that we have. You can see they have the provisions for all the 802s on there. And then we just stuck a muffler on that one. That's when they had those silly slip fit things on there. "30 years ago, when manual was worth 10 to 15 horsepower and the total was 250, the manual was faster. Do I think people eventually make a motor that would power on air? Could you make a motor that just runs on air? What is the fuel going to be?" Yeah, Bill, everybody wanted the manual trans cars. Even me, but my old Camaro, I would have liked to have a 4-speed car, and the people that had 4-speed cars, Camaros or Chevelles or whatever, those were a lot cooler. For guys drag racing, though, even guys back then, being consistent with an automatic was a lot easier. Richard, have you heard that an AM V4 has been resurrected by Super HP? I don't know what either one of those things are. So probably the answer is no. Yeah, hydrogen motors, I definitely think are a thing. They're already a thing, right? Well, my fast clutch shift is going to take about 125 milliseconds. Just a little badass 4-stroke V4 1.65 liter. Yeah, I don't know what that is or who makes it or any of that. Street tuned a 5.3 truck Norris square body on 93 with a GT45. Made 6 pounds and felt like way too much for the stock suspension. Any idea how much power it could be making? 6 psi is going to be less than 50%. Let's say that motor, if a 5.3 with a truck Norris cam, if that's the only thing that you did, a truck Norris cam and springs and obviously injectors, that's going to be between 400 and 425, somewhere in that range. 6 psi on 93 is not going to get you, because you couldn't have put any timing in it. But you would gain, I don't know what a percentage is that. 40% times 415. That brings you to 585. So I'm thinking you're going to be 550 at the flywheel, probably. Given the amount of timing that I think you could run. 6 psi is not terrible for pump gas, because then you don't have to take away as much timing. Think about porting my pre-Eagle Hemi heads to the Eagle head port. How much horsepower should I expect to gain? I don't know that that's what I would do, because I don't know that duplicating that port shape is what is going to maximize the airflow. I don't know that that's what people are doing. I'm way less concerned about what the shape of the port is than what it flows. I don't care that it's an oval port or a rec port or a cathedral port or whatever. I just know that you can make each one of those do good things. So I don't think I would port match it to an Eagle port. I think I would just do what the other people are doing to these earlier heads to make them flow a lot. The guys from Total Engine Airflow did some of ours way back, and it picked up quite a bit. Nobody ever made a 306 TFI work with a Holly. I don't know anything about it. We're all working forward. Felt like 500, I was guessing. Yeah. but you can, you know, these are under ideal conditions. And then I don't know what the conversion rate down to, you know, power at the wheels is going to be completely different. Will stroker kit help a centrifugal supercharger? Well, the stroker kit will help the NA power. So the centrifugal supercharger is still going to do the same thing that it does. It's not going to make the centrifugal supercharger any better. It's just going to make the NA motor better, which is going to make the whole combination better. Because if you make more power, what will if you make more NA power and you've made the motor bigger, what will happen is if you're spinning the blower at the same speed, the boost is going to come down. That's a good thing. It's going to make more power at less boost. What power do you recommend for 700 to 800 at the tire? We will have a turbo for you in the next week or two. It will easily do that and have room to grow. Modified. We're hoping to. I think Jimmy said that they would be in 2 weeks. I think. I'm going down this week and doing more turbo testing. We'll have a listing for them when we put them up. Yeah, are you what transmission are you running behind that? Zootruck, what is it you want me to swap into the Omni that I'm not going to do because I'm going to have the stock motor in there? So are you talking about some two-stroke thing? A 4L80? Okay. That's what most people use. 4L80 is good stuff. We like the 4L80 with a shift kit. 9-inch rear 4-link. Okay, you're all set, dude. You got it. She's like, why are you guys asking me about this? Like, I don't already have this plan. I got you. That's good. You already did the like drivetrain stuff, and now you're like, okay, now I'm ready for power. Most people just go, I need 1,000 horsepower or 1,000 plus horsepower or whatever, and then they're like, okay, what are you running it behind? Well, a 4L60 and the stock drive shaft and the stock rear end. Yeah, that's not going to work. You'll just put the camshaft in and then see how long your transmission lasts, and then you know. Big power. It's cool. We're gonna have the low buck truck camshaft and a low buck truck turbo and all kinds of stuff. I have not weighed it in stock for them. They were 2800 is pretty light. My stock 8.8 Ford will hold. I got welded tubes. Do you have any data on the different VTR cams, 15 to 24 LTs? I have a little bit of test data from stuff that they've run, but I haven't tested those. Richard, I just reread the title and think only Yugo owners would be ecstatic with 90 horsepower, not 90 horsepower gain, but total. Yeah. Well, when we're talking about a 90 horsepower camshaft, that's the game. Did the same with my E46. Upgraded everything else first, then did the turbo upgrade last. Hopefully, we won't be breaking stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize that's the horsepower part is like the easiest thing. You have a video on a Gen 448 twin turbo kit. We don't do twin turbo kits. But there are videos up of 4.8 twin turbo deals that we did. Like the Big Bang was originally a 4.8, the first one that I did, that one that made 1,200 or something. What happened if I put Eagle headers on a pre-Eagle Hemi? I don't think that they bolt on. Do you think conversion would happen, affect power, or should it be fine as long as the port seals? I don't know enough about that because I haven't ever tried to hold one header up to the other to see what happens. I thought that the bolt pattern was different. I was looking at a K24 swap for an E36 today. That's cool. Jimmy was trying to test again. The guys have I think it's a C5 Corvette with a K24 swap in it, but it makes good power though. Got myself a transmission part today. Well, transfer case, okay. Jeep AX5 manual. If I wanted to break it, an LS4 would bolt up. There you go. What's the biggest shock or surprise you learned during testing? It was pretty surprising that the motor that I thought was a 5.3 when we first did the first Big Bang motor was actually a 4.8. And I didn't know that till after we were done testing and I took it apart. I should have realized it, and then this is a learning experience. This is how you have more knowledge. Is I'm like, wow, this thing's making power really high RPM. It's not making very much torque for a 5.3. Yeah, because it's not. It's a 4.8. Yeah, Chad, look up Big Bang 4.8, and you'll just do a search, and it will come up. Yeah, Neil, it's like an 800 or 900 horsepower K24 in a Corvette. It's pretty cool. Came across the M90 videos. You think it would make any power on an LQ4? Yeah, the spun up and modified the way that we've done it, an M90 will support more than 600 horsepower. So it could add power to a stock LQ4, but I don't think it would be my choice for that. You'd be much better off going with a bigger one. And their SWS guys have kits now to put blowers on there. Tom Demuse from Demuse Engineering, which I did all this stuff on, has kits to put the M122 blowers on from the GT500 motors. And so that would be a better blower for that. K-swap the world. Yeah. When Jimmy told me, he goes, yeah, they got a Corvette here. I'm like, okay, well, cool. What kind of LS does it have? Well, it has a K series. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, oh yeah, it's got a K24 in it. I'm like, God, that's awesome. Omni swap candidate, an AM V4 is a 90-degree cam and block V4 with an aluminum block and heads, big bore, short stroke, breeze efficiently, zipping to 8,000 RPM. It makes 180 horsepower. What displacement is that? And it's not a swap candidate for that car, but would be for the Metro. Now, I'm certain that that's like 1,000,000 horsepower. Pre-Eagle and Eagle have the same bolt pattern. The only difference is the ports. The Eagle is being a lot bigger, of course. I don't know if it would be worth it. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to hold the gaskets up there to see how the sealing is. Having the header be bigger than the opening in the head is fine. And even having the opening of the head be slightly bigger than the opening in the header is not terrible. How much that is, the only way to know would be to test on your exact combination to see what that is. As long as the header seals, in most cases, like if you look at headers for a small block Ford is a real good example. They have tiny little exhaust ports. So if you put a set of headers on there, or even a small block Chevy, you put a set of headers on there, normally the header's bigger than that. And I think that most of the headers that we run on LS motors, I think that the header opening on an 1 7/8 header is bigger than the opening in the head. And we know that it does add flow because we've tested that a lot on the flow bench. It likes having a tube there. You foresee a twin turbo option being offered with your low buck truck cam kit through your website, or will the turbo options be a single turbo only? No, we have turbos that you could use as a twin. I will never offer turbo kits for specific applications. That won't come from my shop because I don't want to do a kit for one singular application where we have to make it fit inside of some engine bay because there's so many differences that I don't want to get into that. Tom, what's going on? A K-swap vet sounds cooler than a 318 Ti K-swap. I don't know. A friend, a guy that I knew that was in a fraternity, he had a 323, which was the 6-cylinder version way back, and I thought that was the coolest thing. But I always liked the 4-cylinder BMWs. I would like a 2002 even more. So like a K24 in 2002, especially a turbo one, I think would be awesome. That would be my idea of a really cool one. If you could have a rear wheel drive, and then maybe you would just do an S2000 motor in there with a 6-speed on it. That would be kind of cool. I just like those little cars. I love 510s. I love the 2002s. All of those are really cool. Richard, when did you go on the Playing in Traffic podcast? Just saw it. Have to go back and listen to it. Yeah, that was quite a while ago. And before displacing 100 cubic inches, so 1.65. Yeah, that's a little big. If it was 1.5 liters, that would be awesome. If it was 1 liter, that would be even awesomer. Thanks, man. You've been very helpful. The aftermarket on my 3rd-gen Ram 5.7 is terrible, even though it's a great platform. I don't think it's awful. Porting those heads works really good. There's plenty of intake manifolds for those. I think you're right on there being a shortage of lots of camshafts for that, and I think that should be taken care of. Would the low butt truck cam and L6 springs on an LR4 have a decent power curve? If I was trying to rev it to 6,800 motors, a 3,100 pound 5-speed Sonoma. Yes, on a 4.8, that camshaft with that intake manifold would run to that RPM. Let me see where we were on the other deal that we did, 4.8. Here's all the crane cams that we did. Yeah, so it'll certainly pull there with that 224 cam and a truck intake. It made peak power at 6,900. The low butt truck cam's probably not going to make power that high. But yeah, you would be okay at 6,800. We even had to do different modified downpipe for air conditioning cars on one application we did. Yeah, Neil, I'm not. Jimmy did that for a long time. He had lots of turbo kits at HP Performance for different kinds of things, and it's a lot. You have to have a car there to build a kit for it, and I'm not doing kits. There's a cyclone approaching. Category 2. Yeah, you still get floods. That could mean a lot of rainfall. Lots and lots of rain foliage. Raindrops keep falling. Let me get 1 more minute. Thank you guys for your help on cam information. Just looked up AMV4. Looks kind of interesting. 1.6 liters is kind of small. It's not small for what I would want to do. We've been 50 to 60 degrees all day. Blizzard warning starts at midnight though. Yeah, it's been nice here. It's a little bit cloudy today, but it's been nice. I've been outside in the sun. What are your thoughts on Holley versus Haltech? I don't know. I don't have any experience with Haltech yet. We haven't put it on. One more minute. Here, Florida, the trees are pollinating. Yeah. We've got some cottonwood trees around us, and that later on they'll be dropping all of the stuff down and all the fuzz, and it looks like it snowed outside. Kind of cool though. I want to take another trip to Florida. I want to go snake hunting. Some heads are too big for a build. Will nitrous help with filling the heads better, or should I have just got smaller heads? I don't know what you mean by them being too big, but it just means you can run more nitrous. Is there a need for wideband O2 sensors when running nitrous? Yes, so that you can tune it. Hoping they haven't rebrined the roads. Yeah. Yeah, that's never good. And on that note, it is time to go. I hope you guys all have a good night. Thanks for your help, and I will see you all tomorrow.